Often, often for one who had betrothed and then divorced, Reb Elazar says one who seduces her is exempt, the one who violates her is liable. One is the compensation. What is the compensation for disgrace? All depends on status at the time, who disgraced and the one who is disgraced. As to impairment, we regard her as if she were a slave woman or was to be sold, how much she was worth and how much she is worth. How much, what this fine is uniform with everyone, and every monetary obligation that has a fixed amount set by the Torah is uniform with everyone. Wherever there is a right of sale, there is no fine imposed. And wherever there is a fine imposed, there is no right of sale. A minor is subject to the right of sale, and she is not entitled to a fine. A maiden is entitled to a fine, and the right of sale does not apply to her. A mature girl is neither subject to the right of sale nor is she entitled to a fine. Okay.
So this Mishnah, by the way, important to note, is not the definitive halacha. This is according to the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Chachamim don't hold by this split, so that for a katana there's also a knas.
Okay.
Okay. Tes haomer pitisi es bito shel ploni. So a guy gets up and confesses that he seduced a certain person's daughter. Okay. So now what does he have to do? He has to pay Meshalem Boshes Upagam al Pi Atzmo because he confessed it. When you admit that you did damages,
Right.
when you admit that you did damages, you it's like 100 Adim coming against you. So then he's saying, okay, it's saying so I owe you for the boshes and for the boshes for the humiliation of it and the pagam and whatever her value has decreased. If she had, we said before that pagam is assessed as if she were being sold as a slave in the market. How much would she be worth before and how much would she be worth after? And the pagam is the difference between the two, which has to be paid. But eno mashalem knas, and that's a general rule with knas is that if somebody confesses to something that they chayv on a knas, they don't pay the knas. It's only if other people find them guilty. But if he confesses to something that requires knas, he is patur. That's a general principle. Eno meshalem knas al pi atzmo. Haomer ganavti v'tavachti umacharti. Similarly, somebody confesses that he stole an animal from somebody else. Okay, and he slaughtered the animal and he sold it. Now we said that there's a special knas for one who steals an animal and shechts it and sells it. Um, he has to pay 4 or 5 times the payment. Now that is not a that's a knas, that 4 or 5 time payment, and and therefore it isn't, and therefore he if he confesses to it, he's not going to be paying the kefil or the mishalem is a keren al pi atzmo. So he has to pay for the animal itself, obviously, because he has confessed that he stole it. Ve'einu mishalem tashlumei kefil ve'tashlumei arba v'chamisha. He doesn't pay the fine for stealing or the fine or the 4 or 5-fold payment for the animal. Hey, Miss Shori es ploni. If he admits my ox killed a person, or shoro shel ploni, or it killed somebody else's ox, okay, this is called damages. Hare ze mishalem al pi atzmo. He has to pay the damages because he confessed it. Okay, this is pure nezik. Hamish shori avdo shel ploni. However, because the knas for the payment for a shor killing an eved is a fixed amount by the Torah, and it doesn't matter whether it's the strongest slave or the weakest slave or whatever. It's always 30 shekels. So that means that it falls under the getter of knas, and if he confesses to it, he doesn't pay. Right? Eino meshalem al pi atzmo. Ze haklal. Kol ha-meshalem yaser al ma shehizik eino meshalem al pi atzmo. So your general rule for this is that if somebody confesses to damages, he never pays more than the actual value of the damages.
Okay.
Okay. Next parak. Nara shenis patasa. So a girl who was seduced. Boshta ufkama uknasa shel aviha. So then the humiliation, the payment for humiliation and for monetary damage and the knas for violating her, those go to her father. Vatsar bat fusa, and when she was raped, then we said before that there's an additional payment that's going to be the tsar, the pain of payment for her pain, and that also all of that goes to her father. Amda badin. Now they sued him. Ad shelo mesa'av. And the father was still alive at the time of the court case. Hare ze hen shel av. Mesa'av. Hare hen shel achin. And if the father dies after the judgment, then the payment is going to go to his heirs, who are the achim, the brothers. Lo ispika lamod badin ad shemesa'av. However, if they went to judgment after the father had died, hare hein shel atzma, then the payment is going to go directly to her. Is that a pre-warning coming? Yeah, it's a pre-warning. Okay. Hare hein shel atzma. Amda badin ad shelo shush. Amda badin ad shelo bagra hare hein shel av. So if she went to justice before she became an adult, hare hein shel av, then the money belongs to her. Meis ha'av hare hein shel achin, and if the father subsequently died, the yorshim take the money, which is her brothers. Lo hispika lamod badin ad shebagra. However, if she came of age, if she was seduced or raped before she came of age, and now she becomes an adult, which means she's left her father's reshus, hare hen shel atzma. So if the girl wants to get the money for herself, good idea is to delay the court case.
We just got an alert.
Yes, I know it's a pre-alert.
Right, yeah.
But you're already in your mamad.
All right, sure, yeah.
Okay. Hare shel atzma. Rabbi Shimon Omer, im lo hispika ligbos ad shemei sa'av. Even if they haven't done the collection until before the father dies, hare shel atzma, then she still gets it. So his machlokas with the Tanna Kama is that that the money is considered collected only when it's actually collected, whereas the Tanna Kama says that once the judgment has been given, then it's already the ownership it's the possession of the father, and it's just lacking the actual handing over of the money. What happens about the things that she makes, which automatically belong to her father, right? Af al pi shelo gavsa, even though Masiadeha, af al pi shelo gavsa, she hasn't received the money for whatever she did. So she did work and she hasn't yet been paid for it. Okay. Even though she hasn't actually collected whatever's due to her, and if her father then dies, it's still money that was earned and belongs to her father, and therefore when the father dies, it goes to the Yorshim. Okay, Hamares is bito, a father who accepts kiddushin money for his daughter. Okay, the Gersha, and then the husband comes and divorces her immediately. Okay, Erisa, he did Erisa Venis Armela. Now, if she subsequently gets if the father then engages her to somebody else, Venis Armela, uh, uh, and now she becomes a widow. Kesubos shelo. He still gets the kesuba because the girl doesn't leave her father's domain until she goes to the chuppah. So while she's still living at home, the father still has rights over her. Okay. So even if she was subsequent, even if she was divorced before she went to the chuppah and subsequently married, she still belongs to the she still the money well, I mean, kasubasa shelo, the money from these two kasubas, but hang on, she wouldn't have a kasuba yet. Would she have a kasuba? Doesn't she only get the kasuba when she goes to the chuppah? I actually thought that it was that way. Anyway, Hisiava Gersha, Hisiava Nis Armela, Kasuba Sashila. Now, however, if he married her off at the chuppah, Hisia, the difference between Nisuin and Erusin, she actually went to live with somebody else, and then she was divorced. Hisia, and then he married her off again. Now I don't know how he could marry her off again because he actually couldn't do it. Because once she has um I think she must have consented in the second case because once she's moved out of her father's home, even if she's a katana, once she's moved out of her father's home, she is considered an orphan in her father's lifetime. So it must be with her father's consent now, because if she gets widowed, Kesuba Sashila, her Kesuba belongs to her because she is no longer under her father's domain. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Harishona Shel Av. Rabbi, he says actually no, the first one belongs to the father. Amru lo Misha Hisia Ein Lavi Harishos Ba. They said, sorry, Rabbi Yehuda. Once she has been married off, when she's left her father's house, the father has no rishos over her whatsoever. So I must conclude that the second time that the father married her off must have been with her consent. Okay, let's go back to Aleph Hey.
Okay, Aleph Hey. And the results. And we have, if one eats in his father-in-law's house in Judea without witnesses, he cannot lodge a claim concerning her virginity against her because he secludes himself with her. Both the widow of a non-Kohen and the widow of a Kohen have a kasuba of 100 zuz. The court of the Kohanim would collect 400 zuz for a virgin, and sages did not stop them. If one marries a woman and does not find any tokens of virginity, she says, after you've betrothed me, I was violated and your misfortune caused it. And no one, and the other one says, not so. It happened before I betrothed you, and my acquisition was made in error. Rabbi Gamil and Rabbi Elias say she is believed. Rabbi Yeshua says she is not believed. Rather, it is presumed that she was a non-virgin before she was betrothed, and that she misled him until he proves her claim. If she says I was injured by a piece of wood, and he says not so, but you were deflowered by a man, Rabbi Gamil and Rabbi Elias says she is believed. Rabbi Yeshua, however, says she is not believed. Rather, it is presumed that she has been deflowered by a man until she proves her claim.
Okay. Vamos. Hey, Vav.
Okay. 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 Well, all right here. Um, okay, sorry. Here we go. If he performed Chalitza and then performed Mama and gave her a divorce, or cohabitated, or she cohabitated and then preserved before Mama, he gave a bill of divorce, or performed Chalitza, there is nothing after Chalitza, whether at the beginning or in the middle or at the end. However, in the case of cohabitation, when it is at the beginning, there is nothing after it, but when it is in the middle or at the end, there is something after it. And the Klamya says whether it is a cohabitation or Chalitza, and whether it is at the beginning or in the middle or at the end, there is nothing after it. One who cohabitates with his Yavama, rather mistakenly or wantonly, whether coerced or willingly, even if he was mistaken and she was wanton, or if he was wanton and she was mistaken, or he was coerced but she was not, or she was coerced and he was not, whether the nation using was only partial or complete, he has acquired her. There is no distinction between the forms of cohabitation. Similarly, if one cohabitates with any of these arayos forbidden in the Torah, or those qualified for marriage, for example, a widow to a Kohen Gadol, or divorcee or kalutza to an ordinary Kohen, a mamzeres or nisanat to a Yisrael, or the daughter of Yisrael to a mamzer and nisanite, he has disqualified her. There is no distinction between the forms of cohabitation. And on the sukkah. Okay, base 12. Base 12. Rabbi Ellis says a man is obligated to eat 14 meals in the sukkah, and one each day and one each night, but they come and say the matter is of no fixed obligation, except for the night of the first Yom Tov on the festival only. Elias' father further stated, whoever did not eat in the sukkah on the night of the first Yom Tov must compensate for it on the night of the last Yom Tov. But the sages say this matter has no compensation. About the matter it is said, a twisted thing cannot be made straight, and what is not there cannot be numbered. A person who has head and is most of his body inside the sukkah and is stable inside the house, Beis Shammai invalidates the sukkah and Hillel validates it. Said Beis Hillel to Beis Shammai, did it not happen that the elders of Beis Shammai and the elders of Beis Hillel went to visit Yochanan, son of the Koharanite, and found him sitting with his head and most of the body inside the sukkah and his table within the house, and they said nothing to him? Beis Shammai replied to them, is that your proof? Actually, they said to him, if this is how you have always conducted yourself, then you have never fulfilled in your life the initial the mitzvah of sukkah. Women, slaves, and minors are exempt from the sukkah.
Eliezer, just hold on a second, please. I need to talk to my wife just a sec.
Okay.
Sorry, carry on. Where were you up to there?
We were in base Zion. No, I'm sorry, it is chet. Women who and slaves and minor are exempt from the sukkah. Wait, I think that's wrong.
Yeah, women
Right.
and slaves. That's
Sorry.
right. Carry on.
A person who had his head and most of his body inside the sukkah and his table inside the house, Beis Shammai validates the sukkah, and Beis Hillel validates it. Beis Hillel said to Beis Shammai, did it not happen the elders of Beis Shammai and the elders of Beis Hillel went to visit Rabbi Yochanan ben Koronite and found him sitting with his head and most of the body inside the sukkah and his table within the house, and they said nothing to him? Beis Shammai replied to them, is that your proof? Actually, they said to him, is this how you have always conducted yourself? Then you have never in your life fulfilled the mitzvah of sukkah. Okay.
Okay,
That's it?
no, one
One
more.
more? Women, slaves, and minors are exempt from the sukkah. A minor who does not need his mother is obligated to dwell in the sukkah. It once happened that the daughter-in-law of Beis Shammai, the elder, gave birth, and he removed the plaster roof and placed stock over the bed for the child. Okay.
Okay.
Truma. Trumos. Vav, C. Vav Dalet. Oh, that's wrong. I went the wrong way. Let's go the wrong way. Yeah.
We're on Vav Vav, I think. Just check.
Vav.
Vav Vav, yeah.
Right. Right. Vav. Okay. Um, As Elias says, one may pay with one kind for another, provided he pays for the superior for the inferior kind. But Rekiva says one must pay only with the same kind. Therefore, if he ate cucumbers of the 6th year, he must wait for the cucumbers of the 8th year and pay with them. From the same source that Rebbe Elias derives his lenient ruling, Rebbe Kiva derives his stringent ruling, as it is written, and he shall give the holy thing to the priest, something that may become holy. So Rebbe Eliezer, so says Rebbe Eliezer, but Rebbe Kiva says, and as I give the holy thing to the priest, the holy that he ate. If one eats truly willfully, he must repay its vow, but does not pay the fifth. The repayment is chulin, and if the priest wants to forego, he may forego. If the priest's daughter married a non-priest and afterwards a truma, she pays its value, but does not pay the fifth, and her death is by burning. If she was married to any one of those ineligible, she must repay its fifth, its value plus a fifth, and her death is by strangling. Reb Meir says, so says Reb Meir, but the sages say, Roll will repay its value, but do not pay the fifth, and the death is by burning. If one serves true to his sons who are minors or to his slaves, whether adults or minors, or
Oh, no,
he eats
no, that's too many. Okay, we're Gimel
all
for
right.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. What else? Okay, all right. We should have test Aleph.
yes.
Beehive is located in the doorway of a house with its mouth outdoors. An olive-sized piece of corpse is located outdoors, either below the hive or above it. Any item that is directly below or above the olive-sized piece becomes tummy. Whatever is not directly below or above the olive-sized piece, and whatever is inside either the hive or the house remains tahor. If the olive-sized piece is inside the house, only that which is inside the house becomes tummy. If it is inside the hive, everything becomes tummy. If the hive is of one handbreadth above the ground and there is tumor below it, inside it, or the house, or above the hive, everything becomes tame except for that which is inside the hive. If the tumor is inside the hive, then everything becomes tame. In what case does this apply? When the hive is a utensil with windows. If it were broken and stuffed with spore, or if it was windows were covered, what is considered covered? When there is no window the size of a handbreadth and an olive-sized piece of corpse is located underneath the hive, utensils directly below the olive-sized piece as deep as one can go become tame. If the olive-sized piece is above the hive, utensils directly above the olive-sized piece up to the sky become tame. If the olive-sized piece is inside the house, only the house becomes tame. And if the olive-sized piece is placed inside the hive, only that which is inside the hive becomes tame.
Okay.
Okay.
Adios.
Adios. Okay. Okay. We should have hey. Right? Hey. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. If four brothers, two of whom were married to two sisters, and those who were married to two sisters both died, both of these sisters keep them, but Beis Hillel says they must divorce them.
Wait, no, you jumped. You jumped.
I skipped the page. Okay.
Mhm.
And similarly, they must respect. No, both of these sisters require chalitza, but they may not be taken to Nibum. And if the brothers went ahead and married the sisters, they must divorce them. Eliezer says in the name of Beis Shammai, they may keep them, but Beis Hillel says they must divorce them. Akiva ben Menhil says, testified concerning four matters. The sage said to him, Akiva, rescind from your position on the four matters that you have said, and we will appoint you to Beis Din for the Jewish people. Akiva replied to them, it's preferable for me to be called a fool all my days and not become a wicked person for even one moment before the omnipresent. That people should not say, Akiva retracted from his opinions for the sake of obtaining a position of authority. Rabbi Akiva would declare tummy of deposited hair and yellow urine, but the sages declared them tahor. He would permit benefiting from the hair of a blemished bakor, which fell out and was placed in the recess of the wall, and afterwards he slaughtered the animal, but the sages prohibited. Akiva ben Malhal used to say, "We do not give to drink neither to a female convert, nor to a free slave woman. But the sages say we do give them to drink." And said to them, an incident once took place in Yerushalayim in connection with Karkamis, a freed slave woman, and Shemaiah and Aviton gave her soda water to drink. Akiva ben Mahal replied to them, they gave her to drink similar. Then they excommunicated Akiva, for he died in a state of excommunication. And the court had his coffin stolen. But Yehuda said, heaven forbid that one say that Akiva was excommunicated at the doors of the temple. Courtyard did not close on anyone from the entire people of Israel who was given great wisdom and fear of sin, as was Akiva ben Mahal. Rather, who was it that they communicated? It was Eliezer ben Chanuk, who slighted the requirement of keeping one's hands tahor. And when he died, the court sent its agents and they placed a stone in his coffin, but teaches you that when someone is excommunicated and dies in a state of excommunication, the court stones his coffin. Thanks.
One more.
At the time of Akiva's death, he said to his son, my son, retract from the four matters that I used to say. He used to say, Akiva, to Akiva, his father, why did you not retract yourself? Akiva said to his son, I heard these rulings pronounced by the majority, and the sages heard them pronounced by the majority. Those that adhere to them I received tradition, and those that adhere to them receive tradition. But you heard one set of rules pronounced by a single individual, myself, and a conflicting set of rulings pronounced by the majority. Therefore, it is preferable for you to obtain the words of the individual and to grasp onto the words of the majority. He said to Akiva, Father, intercede with your colleagues to me. Akiva answered, I will not intercede. He said to Akiva, perhaps you have found some cause in me. And Akiva said to him, no, it is your deeds that will bring you close to the sages, or your deeds that will distance you. Okay.
Okay, Yeshakach.
Okay.
Purim Sameach, Besoros Tovos. And we got it all clear, by the way.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Okay, bye.